Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and your higher power, this show is for you. Thus, we explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. This show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Dr. Kelly. Now let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started, because we share with you the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love, or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host, Dr. Kelly.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Dr. Kelly?
Doing great. I have decided something to do with my hair. I'm going platinum.
You're going what? Platinum?
I'm going platinum.
What exactly does that mean?
It's like kind of like Susan Powder in the 80s. But anyway, it's nice and bright. And, you know, I have a lot of gray hair. You might not know that, but I do. And I don't like it anymore. I want to be able to date at least 20 years younger than myself.
Okay.
So in order to do that, I have to go platinum.
Okay, yes. But you have such beautiful hair that's so easy to manage, which is really great, especially when you're busy.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I only have to do the front of it because I'm not looking at the back.
Good. Yes, I'm doing good. But life has been busy. And I'm so excited about today's topic, because today's topic is going to help us busy women.
Oh, yeah, it really is. In fact, I think we may save the best for last.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So before I get into our main topic of today of self-care for extremely busy women, I wanted to let our audience out there know that if you're looking for a quick, easy gift out there for your loved ones, I have two opportunities. One is just a series of intimacy books that you can find on Amazon, or if you're looking for an intimacy experience, check out our intimacy retreat on vacationcounseling.com.
Yeah, which is in Costa Rica next.
Yes, definitely, which gives us a break. Yes. But how are we going to get through this holiday season with so much busyness?
Yeah.
Yes, as women.
Yeah, one day at a time, and for some women, it's 1 hour at a time.
Yes.
But I'm sure we can all benefit from a lot new tips, because
Yes.
held on, take me away doesn't work, and if it does, it's 15 minutes.
Okay, yes. So I would like to introduce an expert that's going to help us get through this holiday season, and of course through the rest of 2021 and hopefully 2022. Suzanne Falter. She is an expert on self-care for extremely busy women. In fact, she's been doing this for decades. She's a podcaster for the same topic. She's also written a book on it. Sadly, she lost her daughter. And after she lost her daughter in 2012, she had to learn about self-care. And I think between all her works and stuff, she learned the importance of self-care, especially when you're busy. So besides writing that, she's also written, I think, a book called Surrendering to Joy and How Much Joy You Can Stand. And over the 15 years of work, she has featured over so many stuff: O Magazine, the New York Times, Elephant Journal. Much Joy Can You Stand? Wow, you've been extremely busy, Suzanne. I would love to welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Dr. April. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Kelly.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You too, love.
So, Suzanne, currently in your life right now, this show is called Bringing Intimacy Back. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we always ask people is, what does intimacy mean to you? And how does that relate to self-care?
I'm glad you asked. I love the title of this show, first of all, because intimacy is what is missing in so many of our lives. We've replaced it with dependence on electronics and devices and social media and these virtual experiences. But for me, intimacy means the energetic connection between people. So when I go to the gym and I get in the pool like I did this morning, and I'm swimming a lane away from a complete stranger, but we're just kind of having this swimming experience. We're both sort of going back and forth the same direction. I feel connected to that person, even though I don't know them. That is more intimate to me than, spilling my guts in a environment where maybe we can connect with other people intellectually, but not energetically, if that makes sense. I also think a real big piece of this is intimacy with yourself. And, after my daughter died, I spent a couple of years grieving, and I really didn't do much. I wasn't working. I was living on my savings. I was in a rented room in a friend's house, and it was just extremely quiet. And I really turned within. I began to really get clear on what my needs were for the first time, possibly in my entire life. I was so devastated, but I was so aware of the opportunity that was in that crisis, because I had been overworking. I had been completely overstimulated for decades. I had built this big career, and I had just closed my business because I was completely burned out. The relationship I'd been in had ended. I had to leave the home we had just moved into together, and I had to start all over again. So I was literally forced to tune into myself and my needs and begin to construct a life that actually had meaning. Because the work I had been doing prior to Teal's death was all about marketing. It was about things that I was proficient in and could even make a good living from, but that I didn't care about. And I didn't feel at all intimate or connected with that work. So, for me, intimacy covers many, many, many different realms of life.
What I like about what you just said, it just focuses so much on a presence, that you are present in your life. The way you described the early part of it was that decade after decade, it was this busyness, right?
Yeah.
And then the secondary, and how you defined that, even in the pool, that it's like this process of slowing down and being present for each stroke, if you will, which would be each day, and finding something that you really enjoy. Am I grasping?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. My daughter wanted to be a healer, and she died from a medically unexplainable cardiac arrest the day before she was going to start taking classes at San Francisco City College, quote unquote, to be a healer. She didn't really know what it meant, but she just had this gut sort of spiritual feeling that this is what she was supposed to do. So she set out to find out, what is this thing about being a healer? She'd been a blues singer in Austin, Texas, and had gone to the Berklee College of Music. I mean, she was really good. And she just put it all aside and said, okay, I'm going to be a healer now, because that's what I feel I should do. So, her whole take on life was extreme presence. And I really didn't know what that was about. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Dr. Kelly. I mean, Teal would just pack up her little backpack and go to the airport with some money in her pocket and just pick a place to go that sounded intriguing and just go have an adventure. And she never knew quite where she was going to land from day to day, but it always worked out. And she always felt intimate with her own life. And sure enough, when she died, she left behind a little red notebook with all kinds of channeled information in it that she had heard in her meditations. And the big message that was on page after page was just be, or be and you know. And I had no idea what that meant. But boy, did I start to figure it out after she died, because what I'm describing in that 2-year period of grief was the process of learning how to be without having to feel important because I was too busy, without having to feel super safe because I was super structured with another task every single minute. I was working with, 8 or 10 clients a day at one point. And it was just nuts. It was nuts. The money was great, but I had no life. And I certainly didn't have time and space to go within. I can't say enough about the value of just doing nothing. Just sitting in a window, watching the dust specks in the air, or looking at the sky, or sitting under a tree and feeling nature around you. I mean, That is intimacy.
Yes. And Suzanne, as you're saying that, which I believe truly that is what you said, it's intimacy. But I know there's women out there, especially mothers, who are thinking, how can I just sit and do nothing?
Isn't
You know
it
what I'm
great?
saying? Yeah,
Isn't it great?
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I should be entertaining child A, cooking for child or husband B or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the book about self-care I wrote, The Extremely Busy Woman's Guide to Self-Care, I published a couple of years ago, has in it a whole lot of ideas about how to unplug from those situations which are guilt induced. I mean, can you ask for help? Can you break the status quo and say to your partner, hey, I need help. Could you please cook dinner and do the dishes or whatever 3 times a week? I can't do all of this. That's the first thing I had to learn. It's safe to ask for help. And not only is it safe, it's necessary. We think we don't get to have any boundaries. We think we have to do it all. It's an illusion. The fact that we are not alone must be recognized. And I'm speaking to you, single moms, because you have friends, you have a network, you have other single moms possibly who would do a trade. You know, there have to be ways where we can support each other to create this much needed time alone. I remember one of the shows I did was on my podcast was about the importance of creating alone time. And that alone time, I cannot overestimate the importance, because when you're alone, you can finally hear yourself think. You may really not like your relationship. You may need to go to a counselor or make some big changes. You may really feel overworked in your job. You know, in my Facebook group, there was a woman, I asked the question, what are you tolerating? What are you tolerating? And one of the women in the group said, well, I was tolerating my job, which was way too many hours. So I tried to quit. I went to my boss. I said, I quit. Boss said, what can I do to make you stay? And we renegotiated a package where she gets the same money for half the hours. And she gets to take care of herself. It's like, if we don't ask, we don't know.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Why
many
is it so hard
assumptions.
for women to ask? You know how few women actually negotiate relating to
Right.
the job and their pay and the time? So I'm talking to all the women, both single and married.
That's right.
Employed and unemployed. What do you negotiate? I love what you talked about earlier about guilt-induced actions.
Yeah.
You asked, you focused on that. Could you drill down a little bit more on that?
Yeah. I mean, the assumption built in by the culture here in America, at least, and perhaps North America at large, is, you know, we are really not allowed to ask for what we want. We kind of inherited this from our moms, and it may be going away a little bit gradually with each generation. But I mean, radical help needs to be made here, because husbands used to only help out around the home 40% of the time. That was documented in the 90s. Now it's up to 47%.
Even
Well,
40%.
oh, yippee. Come on, husbands, get with the program here.
Yes.
You might have to help with those kids that you procreated.
Amen.
Yeah. And when you were saying about guilt, I was just thinking, I was working with a woman and she was like, she can't even go to the bathroom by herself. Her kids are there. And I was like, I used to always tell my daughter, and that's a single mom, to go spend time alone.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. I didn't believe I had to entertain her. And that's so important.
That's right. And if you don't learn this as a mother, if you're not doing it and somebody teaches you this, you can do it. But we are just not wired to assume that we can take time for ourselves. You know, I used to love the movie Mary Poppins. I put my kids in front of it. It's 3 hours long. It's just, and you know something? Those kids, they love that. So, hey, old Disney classic, you know, just stream it. They'll love it. You get some serious downtime there. Go lie on the couch and read a great, you know, trash novel. Like, probably don't leave the house, but, you know, depending on the age of your kids. But I mean, you can get a lot done with Mary Poppins on.
Yes, I would used to always tell her to write every time. Yeah.
Oh,
Why do I
that's
have to?
great.
I go journal it out. And
Oh,
yeah, and
that's
actually
great.
she became a writer.
Well, there you go. Perfect, Dr. April. I mean,
Yes.
the fact is, we just don't even think about the value of downtime. We don't think that we need to tune into our needs. We do. And one of the really important lessons I learned during that 2-year period of grief, where I was discovering my self-care and returning to intimacy with myself, was to ask myself the question periodically throughout the day, what do you need right now? And a very simple question, but the answers surprised me. Sometimes I needed to stretch. Sometimes I needed to cry. Sometimes I needed to just go get in the car and go buy an ice cream or do something fun. Sometimes I needed to call someone and have some reassurance. You can get your needs met, but you got to be willing to get real with what they are.
Since so many people have lost people because of COVID and a variety of things these past few years. Yeah. And in the sense of self-care, many people think they're supposed to get over it so quickly. How important is self-care in getting real?
Okay.
When you've lost.
When you are going through a loss, you need to understand that a critical piece of your brain, which is around the hippocampus where your executive function is and where your decision-making ability is and your ability to just go out and do things, that's been disabled. And the more severe and sudden the loss, the more severely disabled. And you will not be able to push yourself to do all those things that you could do before the loss. And if you don't get real about it, you suppress the grief and it becomes worse. May not be in this moment, but it's gonna rear up on you eventually. And that's where, some people believe that's the source of some long-term illnesses or chronic pain. There's a lot of reasons to let the grief move through you. And as you let the grief move through you, not only are you doing something which is radical good self-care, but you're also allowing the flow of life to move through you so you can get to the transformation that is inherent in the loss. Because every loss is a catalyst for change. And if we don't know that, understand it, work with it, we miss a golden opportunity.
Yeah, wow. Wow. I have a question from an audience member. They're saying, we're in the holiday season. It's supposed to be giving. And they're a Christian.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. If they take self-care, isn't that being selfish?
Oh, I love it.
Against?
Okay. Consider something. Consider the idea that when you give to yourself and you're compassionate towards yourself and you make space for yourself, you can show up in a more healthy, grounded, and present way to your desire to give to your community, your family, your elders, whatever. Because when you are feeling good about it, it's a whole different energy that comes with that gift or that, generous donation of your time than if you are feeling resentful, stressed out, and overworked. Also, I really want to speak at this moment about overproduction. We have a problem as women that we think our exceptional isn't really good enough. So a lot of us stay late at work. We, agree to make the gingerbread house from scratch for the kindergarten party. We have to make extremely fancy little organic chicken and veggie croquettes because we think our child will only eat fun food. No. Because when we take a step back and we allow adequate to be good enough, especially in these extremely busy moments in life, like when you're raising small children, well, that works out just fine. We're the ones putting the extra pressure on ourselves. To our listener who just sent in that very good question, I would invite you to consider where's the overproduction in your life. So if you feel like you can't stop to give to yourself or that it's selfish, just consider the idea that you could rebalance this picture.
I have a question from an audience member.
Sure.
They want to know, this is Amy from Pennsylvania. She wants to know what are common ways that women feel guilt.
Okay, so one of the big ones is I must cook and clean and do everything for my family, or it isn't good enough, it doesn't count. And the idea that you take some time for yourself away from that can make women feel guilty. Another place where I've seen it show up is you show up to someone's house and you feel like you have to bring gifts. You have to come bearing gifts. You have to have the casserole or
That's
the
me.
bottles of wine or the cute little tchotchke I saw that would be so cool in your house. What if you were the gift? What if you were the gift? Then you don't have to put the energy into making the casserole or, okay. I mean, look, sometimes buying a gift for a friend is a beautiful thing. But just notice if you feel it has to happen every single time, then maybe you're overplaying that hand. Maybe you're in overproduction rather than a balanced approach to being present with your friends.
Yeah, and it reminds me of this little kid that came to school at my elementary school, and he would give away all of his toys, his mechanical pencils and things. And it just made me think that this poor little guy named Danny didn't know that he was the gift himself, that we did want to be his friend and not for his mechanical pencils.
Yeah. And even as little children, we can get that insecurity going. I really relate to that. I was the kid who was picked on and never felt safe at school, et cetera. And I think I can remember one year for Christmas in the little, Christmas party in the class in 6th grade, I got the biggest bully in the class as my secret Santa.
Oh, Lordy.
And I had to give her a gift and I was terrified of her. So it's like, okay, just tell me what you want. I'll give it to you. Whatever. It's like I was being held up, I mean, I'm like, I'll give you anything. and, needless to say, she took full advantage of that. But I mean, that's a perfect example of how we can't believe that we are good enough as we are.
Yes. And Suzanne, you have definitely been a gift to us. And and I've learned something I really never thought of myself is when you go to someone, especially on these holiday things, and sometimes your presence is just a gift there instead of trying to figure out everything. So Susanna, if other people want to find out more about you, tell us where we can find you.
Sure. I'm at the Self-Care for Extremely Busy Women podcast. And you can also find my book, The Extremely Busy Woman's Guide to Self-Care, on my website at SuzanneFalter.com, SuzanneFalter.com. And I also have this great big Facebook group, 55,000 women all gathered together talking self-care. It's Self-Care for Extremely Busy Women on Facebook. So drop into any of those spots and we will keep the conversation going. And what a pleasure to talk intimacy with you, Dr. Kelly and Dr. April. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Hey, you're great at sound bites. I can see, seriously, if we were like just needing sound bites from her, we'd have like 10 of them right now.
Oh,
yes,
well, thanks.
Exactly.
So keep being and knowing. And one of my favorite proverbs is, I don't know if it's a proverb, but it says, be still and know that I am God.
Wow. That's like be and
Yeah.
That's
and
like
so,
Teal's,
so she
Teal's
wrote
channel.
be and know. And I just wanted to give that to you as a gift because that came to my mind, that verse. And I actually have it on a plaque in my bathroom and one in my living room. And
That says it all, boy. That really says it all. That is awesome. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm going to join that group.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Okay.
Great pleasure. Enjoy and thank you.
Thank you. And all right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back in a few moments.
Are you wanting a vacation in paradise? A vacation to rekindle the passion? A vacation without the kids? A vacation where you can learn how to communicate, where you and your partner actually hear each other and gain insight? If so, vacation counseling is your next vacation. Dr. April Brown has created vacation counseling in Southwest Florida as a perfect option for you and your partner. Our retreats are one couple at a time. We have a variety of packages available to choose from, including virtual couples retreats. If you and your partner are interested in the vacation counseling, please visit us at vacationcounseling.com for more information on pricing and packages. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To keep track of the latest news, stories, activities, or coupons on vacation counseling and Dr. April's other services, we encourage you to sign up to receive a monthly newsletter called Intimate Connections at draprilbrown.com. Remember, if you and your partner are struggling with communication and intimacy, and you all are looking for a retreat to connect, vacation counseling can be your next vacation in Southwest Florida.
Renew your connection and your love in beautiful Costa Rica. February 27th through March 3rd, 2022. We'll make sure it happens. Vacation Counseling Intimate Couples Retreat. Your next vacation. Enroll now at vacationcounseling.com.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Yeah, that was wonderful what she just stated.
Yeah, that was quite incredible. I mean,
Yes.
Some of the things like regarding specifically guilt-induced actions, being present, knowing you are the present. I mean, it was really pretty fantastic.
Yes,
I felt
definitely.
like I felt like I was the choir and the preacher for that one. You know how I mean, meaning I felt like, okay, everybody else gets to listen, but this was for me.
Mhm. Yes. And it's so hard, I think, especially in the holiday season.
Yeah.
You
it
know?
really is.
Yes, because you're always thinking, what do I need to bring? So you stop by the store and you're trying to like figure out, do I get a bottle of wine? Do I get this? Do I get that? What do I need?
Yeah, and taking yourself and being present, being fully present somewhere is fantastic. And that's what I tell some people. I'm like, you know what? If you're not going to be fully present where you go, then don't go, because it's really not a gift, you know.
Right, definitely.
Anybody. Send me the
Yes.
favor. So
Yes. Okay.
anyway,
Yeah, so on the show now, we're doing something different today. We have another wonderful guest. Her name is Dr. Debbie Silber, and she's the founder of Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, which is she is a holistic psychologist, a mindsetter, a personal development expert. So welcome, Dr. Debbie, onto the show.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes.
what's a mindsetter? I'm so curious.
I don't know either. I don't think that's what it says. I'm the founder and CEO of the PBT Institute, Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. So health, mindset, personal development, psychology, spirituality. It's my 30th year in business.
Post-betrayal. My goodness. Oh my gosh. This is deep.
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot of people who have been betrayed, and that is one of the deepest pains in their life.
It sure is. It's one of the most painful of the human experiences, because think about it. These were the people that you trusted the most. So when the person you trust the most proves untrustworthy, who do you trust? When the one you run to when other people are causing harm are the ones causing the harm, where do you go? The good news is you can heal from all of it. And I did the study and I have the proof.
Wow.
Yes. One of the things that we ask our guests is, how do they define intimacy?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that deal with betrayal and being betrayed when you've been intimate with someone and all of a sudden now they betray you?
Yeah, it's devastating. I mean, you were vulnerable, you were open, you gave your heart, your love, your time, your trust. And, without your awareness or consent, when somebody else just changes the rules, there were these spoken and unspoken rules in a relationship. And it's when those rules are broken, it's devastating and it destroys that intimacy. Can it be repaired? I say no. Can it be rebuilt? Yes. It's a lot of work, but it can be.
Yeah. One thing that I notice, even in my own personal experience of dealing with post betrayal, is sometimes you lose that confidence of your own self.
There were the study that I did led to 3 discoveries, and that was actually one of them. One of them was that betrayal is a very different type of trauma than death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster. Of course, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the loss with those types of traumas of betrayal too. But because betrayal feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the entire self is shattered and has to be rebuilt. Rejection, abandonment, confidence, worthiness, belonging, trust. Those are all shattered and they have to be rebuilt. So I coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation. That's the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with betrayal.
Right, because you had said you do not believe it can be repaired, but it can be rebuilt, which means it implies that you need a new foundation.
Absolutely. I look at trust like a brick wall. Think about it, and it's foundational. Every opportunity, the only way I know of a brick wall being built is brick by brick by brick, right? And it could take a really long time. And now think about it. The way it works with trust is every opportunity someone has to show that they're trustworthy, that's one brick in that brick wall. So that brick wall can take a long time to be built. And then in one earth-shattering moment or series of moments, the entire thing can come tumbling down. Well, the person whose trust has been shattered can look at the rubble and say, I don't have the least bit of interest in watching that thing get rebuilt. Totally fine. They can walk away. However, if they decide that they're willing, that would be their job. The person who shattered the trust has to be a really good bricklayer. And it goes back the same way it went the first time, brick by brick by brick. Every opportunity they have to show that they're trustworthy. That's one brick in that brick wall.
Is that you wrote the book, is it the Unshakable?
That was the #1 book. Yeah. And then I wrote Trust Again.
Woman.
Actually, this was one of the other discoveries was that while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many of us do, if we're going to fully heal, we're going to move through 5 proven predictable stages. That's what Trust Again is for. That came out last year. But what I found was, and I'm happy to go through the stages if that serves, most people get stuck in stage 3. So my newest book, From Hardened to Healed, is just for those stuck in stage 3 because it's so common.
To do with bitterness?
It's certainly found there for sure.
Okay, so Debbie, you got me curious. What are the 5 stages real quick? And then tell me more specifically about stage 3.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll do it as quickly as I can. It's what my coaches are all certified in within the PBT Institute. It's what's in Trust Again. I'm going to give you a distilled version right here. So stage 1 is like before it happens. It's a setup stage. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I found was a real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and not really prioritizing the emotional and the spiritual, the feeling and being, right? So if you can imagine 2 legs of a table, right? Easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, by far the scariest of all of the stages. This is shock. D-Day, Discovery Day. You're blindsided, like the person takes the mask off. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So right here, you've ignited the stress response. You're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease.
Wow.
Your mind is in a complete and total state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around the information you just learned. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model. Don't go there. This is how life works. Trust this person. And in one moment, it's all shattered. The bottom's bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed. So it's terrifying. But think about it, right? If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You would do anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Here's the trap, though. Once you've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, we're like, And we think it's good. And because we have no idea there's a stage 4 and stage 5, transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. Because we don't even know that there's a stage 4 and 5, we start planting roots here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And 4 things happen. The first thing is we start getting all those small self benefits. You get to be right. You get someone to blame. You get a target for your anger. You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to.
Oh my gosh,
right?
that's where they stay, the victims.
Yeah.
Oh, and you'll see why for sure.
Now
Even
I
more.
see why stage 3 is so popular. Keep going, doctor.
Yeah. So then because you're getting all these benefits, right? You don't know there's anywhere else to go. You plant deep roots. And now the next thing that happens is because you're there longer than you should be, you start thinking, well, maybe I deserved it. Maybe I'm not all that great. Maybe this, maybe that. You plant deeper roots. And now, because this is the energy you have, these are the thoughts you think. Like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling situations and circumstances and people and relationships towards you to confirm, yep, this is exactly where you belong. It gets
You're
worse.
betraying yourself. You're betraying
Exactly.
yourself. Okay.
Yep. It gets worse, but I'm going to get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but you don't know there's anywhere else to go. You don't know there's a stage 4, stage 5. Right here is where you start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, anything to numb, avoid, and distract yourself from what's so painful to feel or face. So think about it. You do that for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And here's that bitterness, right? And here's where I can see someone 20 years out and say, that drinking you're doing, or that emotional eating, or that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. Say it happened 20 years ago. But do you see? All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it is by far the stage we find ourselves in and get stuck in. And that's why from Hard to Healed, I'm coming for you in stage 3, because you've been through the worst of it already. You owe it to yourself to heal. Do you want me to finish with stage?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I don't want to be stuck in stage 3, please.
You don't want to be stuck there, and that's where most people stay. Okay, if you're willing to let go of the small self benefits, grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo my experience, but I control what I do with it. And when you've made that decision, you start turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you were causing in stages 2 and stage 3. The other thing is, think about it. I always use this example of if you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be in your new space. And what I found was if your friends weren't there for you, right here is where you don't take them with you. You've just outgrown them. People say to me all the time, what the heck? I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise with you, they don't come. Very common to lose friends in this, friendships change in this stage. Anyway, when you've made this mentally home, you're good with it, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now you do. Your mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on what you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Yeah, wow. That's so, talk about a synthesized presentation on that. And I can imagine and understand why the emotions and the emotional and spiritual are the hardest 2 legs, because they scare people. Emotions scare people, and spiritual things can scare people because they're to imply that there's certain ways to emote and there's certain ways to have a relationship, a spiritual relationship. So we can stay in those other ones. Those are like the scientific ones, the biological things that we can control, and can't control our emotions.
Exactly.
Sometimes I liked how you had said during the one, it was like we get to choose how we react. So there's an action and we get to react.
Yes, that's stage 4. Stage 3 is very action oriented, where it's like, but it's all action oriented. And how will I survive this? And how do I make sense out of it? Stage 4 is how do I heal from it? It's a very different, still action oriented, but more in the sense of how can we heal versus how do we get revenge, or how do we just get back at that person, or how do we just survive our experience? Very different actions.
Can we, so we have the 4 steps to rebuilding the unshakable woman one. I want to talk about that. I know but there was, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a third discovery. I'm happy to share what that was too, because I have a feeling your audience would really get a lot out of it.
Because that's rebuilding the body, mind, and life. And some people, they don't even know where to begin. So I think they're both very beneficial. Both of these seem, specifically for our target audience, that if you dug a little bit into that, that would help them as well. But it's up to you where you think they would dovetail and pair.
Yeah, it's all critical. So I can go through all of it. Yeah. So the third discovery was, and when you're making sense and meaning out of your experience, you're going to be faced with these things too. The third discovery was there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post-betrayal syndrome. We've had 45,000 people or so take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling.
Did you design that assessment?
Yeah. And it was based on what I was seeing in the study. And you know, I guess I should really let you, usually I start with my story. We just kind of dove right in.
We're kind of like that, but tell us a little bit about you, Dr. Debbie, and your story.
Sure. And then we could get back to that. Like I said, it's my 30th year in business, health, mindset, personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. And so thought I did the work to heal. And then a few years later, it happened again. This time it was my husband. So I got him out of the house and I looked at the two experiences and I thought, well, what's similar to these two? I mean, I'm the common denominator, but I realized I never took my needs seriously. I was always last on my list. And I was like, no, something drastic has to happen and dramatic has to change. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. I was 50. Wow. I'm like, we're going back for a PhD. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to move through it, but I just knew I had to like kind of learn my way through this. And it was in transpersonal psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much. I didn't quite understand it. He was too on his own, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal, and what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my work, my family, my life.
Yeah, well, that's amazing.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that personal story, because for a lot of us, including myself, we've gone through that and looking for ways to heal or to, like you say, transform.
Well, here's the thing. You've been through the worst of it already. You really owe it to yourself. And it's the beauty of what the study showed and what the discoveries really showed us was healing's predictable. It's predictable. And if we just are willingness is one of the biggest words here, willing to move through the stages, we will predictably move through our experience. And we come in with symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, and I'm happy to share what those are. And when we move through the 5 stages, we enter this place and this state of post-betrayal transformation. There's a version of you that exists in this place that is so strong, so healthy, so healed, so confident, and he or she would blow your mind. But we can't get there when we're stuck in any of the other stages.
You know, it reminds me of that verse in scripture. It says, behold, it says, I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And that's that last stage. And so people that are listening, those of you that are listening, please push through that 3rd stage, because like is it
Silver? Dr. Debbie, you could just, Debbie's fine.
Debbie, like Dr. Debbie said, your future is so much brighter than you could ever think or imagine in the middle of your betrayal now. Look look at Dr. Debbie, using that pain as a springboard. And I'm sure that that was not an easy, this just did not happen overnight, and nor does a PhD.
You know, I really, I've been through death of a loved one. I've been through disease. I was in the ICU for 11 days. Nothing got me like this, nothing. But I remember moving through the program and the study. And I had this thought that if I can heal, I'm taking everybody with me.
Right.
I mean, that was it.
And Dr. Debbie, since you mentioned, what are the symptoms? So, because people are out there listening and they're like, I don't know, maybe. Yeah. Can you cover the symptoms?
Yeah, sure. So now imagine this is out of figure 45,000 people. We have men, women, just about every country is represented. So I'm going to read just every couple of months, I pull the stats just to see where people land. And here we go. So this is out of all those people. 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. I mean, that's just exhausting. 94% deal with painful triggers. Here are the most common physical symptoms. Ready? 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. They wake up, they're exhausted. Those are your adrenals that have tanked. 47% have weight changes. So maybe in the beginning, you can't hold food down. Later on, you're using food for comfort. 45% have digestive issues. And that's anything. Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, you name it. 45%. The most common mental symptoms, ready? 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% are unable to concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You have a gut issue. You're exhausted and you're supposed to work and raise your kids. You know, that's not even the emotional issues, ready? Emotionally, 88% experience profound deep sadness. 83% are very angry. It is really common to bounce back and forth between the two. 82% feel hurt. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. Just a few more. Here's why I wrote the book Trust Again. Ready? 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
You know, it's interesting because if it's post-betrayal syndrome, which of course is not in the DSM, but anxiety disorder is and depressive disorders are, and so many of the symptoms are similar to that. Some people may actually have post-betrayal syndrome and they may have been diagnosed with something else, similar to PTSD and ADHD have similar symptomology. So some children actually have PTSD and they're being treated for ADHD.
100%. And here's the thing, and this is why, you know, we certify coaches and doctors and therapists, and because they could be the most wonderful counselors, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, but if they're not highly skilled in the 5 stages, they're missing. They're hacking away at the leaves and not getting to the root. Because for example, it could be the most amazing gut doctor. Someone sees them for a gut issue, but 45% of everybody betrayed has a gut issue. So if that gut doctor now knows about the 5 stages, they can think of the deeper transformation they can take their patient through or their client through. So, you know, it's a game changer when they understand about the 5 stages.
Right. And you mentioned something so important that many people don't realize, that when personal things happen to them, they really need to even share it with their medical doctors, their nurses, because it all is connected. Yes. And so, Dr. Debbie, it's people are listening and they're hearing all those symptoms and they're like, they want hope. They want to change.
Yeah.
How can they reach you, Dr. Debbie?
You know, I would recommend they should take the Healed or Hardened quiz. They'll know exactly what stage they're in. And they can just find that at healedorhardenedquiz.com.
Okay. Awesome. And how can they reach you or find your books?
Yeah, they could. And, you know, they could just go to I'm thinking there are so many books with the bonuses. If they want trust again, that'll take them through the 5 stages. The best way to do that is go through this link, because then they get bonuses too. I mean, of course you can get it at Amazon, but get it through this link and you get bonuses too. And it's the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/trust again.
Okay. And from my understanding, from what you just said previously, there's a lot of therapists that have been trained.
We have our certification program, and we train coaches and healers, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, therapists, and some work within the institute, and some, just work on their own. But yeah, the more therapists understand and are trained in the 5 stages, the better. We have a lot of people coming in with therapy trauma. And it's because if that therapist isn't highly skilled in betrayal, it could do way more harm than good. We see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's a whole nother topic, therapy trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, we see it a lot because someone, let's say, we see this example all the time. I'll just give a generic example. Let's say there's a husband and wife. The husband has an affair. He's a narcissist. She's able to drag him to counseling. That counselor is not highly skilled in betrayal. The narcissist is very charming. So then the counselor looks at the betrayed person saying, well, if you just communicate more, it's things like that. It's devastating. So it takes a understanding what betrayal does.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yep.
I was just like just seeing if I've been betrayed in my life.
And here's the thing, it doesn't even have to be those big, profound, earth-shattering betrayals. It could be like
you better believe it.
1,000 cuts kind, and
Yeah,
not
those
everybody has.
1,000 cuts.
Yeah. Or it could be self-betrayal. That's big too. And so many of us, even these days, are feeling betrayed by, so many things going on in our lives. So, but there's a way to heal from all of it.
Yes, definitely.
And if you want to take the betrayal to another level also, it could be spiritual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Very people have been betrayed by people in leadership, spiritual leadership.
Absolutely.
And so then you would have, like, let's say, whatever. We don't have to go there. But the point is that there is a lot of, I don't know, like grit. There's a lot of grit, and this is research based. This is not just like some idea, somebody that just like, sitting in their room writing a book. This is somebody who has actually researched this for years and has personally experienced it. You went outside of that, Dr. Debbie. What you did was then you did more research to get this, I don't know how big your sample size was, but knowing you in this brief time, I bet it was pretty big. And that you're still like modifying it and finding those things that will work to help people. I can tell that you're healthy, and it's beautiful to see. I wouldn't want to have seen you on that sad day,
It was bad. It was really bad. But you know what? There's something really interesting that happens when you're sort of broken open, where that's when the light shines through. And I see it so often. We have the people that we move through the Institute, and it was without that complete and utter death and destruction of the old, they never would have been able to birth the new. And whether that's just the new version of them or something else. And what I've also learned is rebuilding is always a choice, whether you rebuild yourself and move on. And that's what I did with my family. It wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you can have the opportunity sometimes to create something brand spanking new with the person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, as two completely transformed people, we married each other again.
Wow. Wow. Such a beautiful story.
Dress and our 4 kids at our bridal party, So
wow. Now talk about a miracle.
Yes.
This is beautiful. And for those women that are listening that are like, the last thing I would ever do is remarry that person. Remember, this was rebuilt. This wasn't just like, didn't happen overnight. And your children were the bridal party?
My children were. Now, here's the thing though, too. because betrayal will show you who someone truly is or wake them up to who they temporarily became. Now, if they're not woken up to who they were and that's who they continue to be, you've got to be full-blown crazy to take that on again. I mean, and that's what people do. And they wonder why
woke
they're
him
sick.
up to who he had temporarily became,
That's
which
it.
was a selfish.
Yeah. And it was and here's the thing too, you know, maybe he woke up to the level that he did because he was actually the one who told our kids. And if anything is going to have you wake up and realize what you just lost, it's losing everyone you love. And he did, and he earned it back.
How fantastic. I love stories like this. You know, there's a statistic, I don't know what it is, but it's pretty high that people will divorce and remarry. And some people even divorce and remarry twice. And I'm kind of like, that puts the spin on breakup and makeup sex. Well, Dr. Debbie, thank you so much. Really.
Yes, you have been actually a living example of the books and everything that you talk about, which is wonderful for everyone who's out there. And we'll definitely be looking at your information and stuff. And so I think it's been really extremely helpful. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. And for our upcoming shows, on December 9th, we have Jerry with Eye Contact, Voices and Hugs. And on December 16th, we have Intimacy Through Retreats. Dr. Kelly, it's been a pleasure having you on as a co-host, and thank you so much for this year.
Thank you. It was a terrific year. I learned so much. And I hope you and Coach K have a fantastic time. I'll be a little bit jealous of her, you know, because but she is fantastic. And those of you that have reached out to me and said that you were going to miss me, I'll miss you as well. And I just want to say, Dr. April, you're fantastic. And you truly are authentic. And that's what I have loved the most about being your co-host. You are authentic. You are the real thing.
Okay.
You help bring intimacy back in my life in a way, because you asked me some questions over a year ago about whether or not I would be willing to be vulnerable. And also, you had told me that, you know, you felt that there was so much more for me than what I was living at the time. And as a result, I made a lot of changes in my life, and it feels good to be content, and not just content, but happy. So thank you for being a part of my journey.
Oh, and thank you so much, Dr. Kelly, for being a part of my journey this year. It's been a tough year personally, but you have pushed me. You have inspired me. You have used a lot of words of wisdom.
Well, thank you.
You have been a guide.
We are going to stay in touch.
Yes, definitely. And so I appreciate you and I wish you much success. And for our listeners out there, Dr. Kelly, as I also mentioned, Coach K will be joining us next time, and I will introduce her as the new co-host. And thank you, Dr. Kelly, and you're welcome anytime on the show.
And if people are listening and they need a motivational speaker, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll have my only see 10 clients a week because I don't want to work too hard, and I love motivational speaking, so I am going to be springboarding back into that. So
yes, and Guy and people out there that are listening, she has motivated me. She has motivated a lot of us. And the great thing about Dr. Kelly is she's authentic, real, and she has a great sense of humor. And she comes in a small little package, but boy, is she powerful. So thanks for being the thunder in my life and just for being so powerful.
Thank you. Hey, and have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you in a while, all right?
All right, then. This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Thank you.